Hello guys, and welcome to Matt's Beamer. Today I'm going to give you an in-depth tour of this 2005-2006 Mark II Ford Focus 1.6 automatic estate in the Ghia trim. This isn't the first Ford Focus on my channel. In fact, I've had two Mark 2.5s. My brother's 2010 titanium 5-door hatchback, which is a 2-litre petrol, and my mum's partner has a 2010 1.6 Zetec, which is also a 5-door hatchback. I call the facelift version of the Mark II the Mark 2.5, though it's not the official name. The facelift hit the market back in 2008. The Mark II was produced between 2005 and to 2010 or 11 for the European market, and it was officially called the C307. It was built on the C1 platform and was closely related to the Volvo S40, the V50, the Mazda 3 and the Ford Focus C-Max. It came in a few body styles: the 3 or 5-door hatchback, the 4-door saloon, a hardtop convertible, and the estate version, which I am filming today. The engines were available in both petrol and diesel, and they also had a ethanol version which was connected to the petrol engine. The petrol engines were mainly available as 4 cylinders, ranging from a 1.4 up to the 2 litre, and they also made a 2.5 inline 5. Diesel engines ranged from a 1.6 up to the 2 litre. The flexi fuel version, which is the petrol and ethanol version, was a 1.8 petrol lump. There were a few gearboxes available too: a 4-speed auto, a 5 or 6-speed manual, and they also had the 6-speed CVT for the diesel versions. This car here is finished in the colour Moondust Silver, which is a very popular colour. In fact, my mum's partner has the Mark 2.5 Focus in the same colour. Let's start at the front of this pre-facelifted car. This version is a lot more edgier and dated compared to the softer lines of the Mark 2.5. Which do you prefer, the facelifted version or this version? The full badge on the grille is massive, but it also doubles up as a cover which hides the key slot to open the bonnet, which I shall show you later on. The black plastic grille in this car has a thin chrome edge compared to the bigger chrome details on the facelifted version. The headlights in this car are the standard halogen versions. It's quite a simple design and it's a lot more dated than the facelifted version, but saying that, I do like the long orange indicators on the outer edges. The facelifted indicators are on the inside edge. Under these covers here are where the headlight washers are. On the colour-coded front bumper you have the front fog lights, which are surrounded by black plastic details. Also along the bottom edge of the front bumper you have more black plastic, so you only scratch the plastic and not the paint. On this bird poo covered bonnet you will notice that there are 2 windscreen jet washers, while the beam type wipers are hidden down below the bonnet line to help with the aerodynamics. It has a coefficient drag of 0.316. The windscreen in this car is the quick clear version. This windscreen has very fine electric wires which help defrost the front windows. I wish that my car had it. Also, you may have noticed on the back of this rear view mirror there's a sensor which helps the rear view mirror tint if there is a bright light behind you. Also, the antenna is located on the roof. As you may have gathered from my previous videos, I really like beefy looking arches, and this car is no exception. Okay, they're not the biggest in the world, but they do look nice. This car has a side indicator located on the wing, whilst the facelifted version doesn't have them there, only on the wing mirrors. I'm not sure what the name of these wheels are called, but I do know they are 15-inch 5 spokes wrapped in 195/65 R15 tyres. I'm sure though that this car being a Ghia, it came with 16-inch alloys, not these ones, so someone must have swapped them in the past and kept the better wheels. The front discs are vented and it has coil spring and strut suspension. I believe that the Ghia has a softer ride to give it a more upmarket feel compared to the other models on the range. Also, this car has ABS. The door mirrors on this car are colour coded and are electronically adjustable. This one didn't come with indicators like some variants. The windows in this car are tinted from factory, but this one here has been tinted even darker in the rear. The door handles in this car are colour coded, unlike the Studio and LX trim levels. There is a key slot on the driver's door only, and since this car is a Ghia, it gets colour coded side strips. Here is the important Ghia badge, which used to be the top trim level until the titanium took over that spot. But I guess that depends on which country you're in. The rear wheels are the same size as the front ones. This car has solid rear discs and a spring setup at the rear, though, being an estate version, the spring is mounted at a different angle. Here is the fuel door, which is lockable on the central locking. To open it, you just need to pull it open. The older Mark IIs seem to have a cap inside, while the later Mark 2.5, like my brother's one, doesn't have a cap, it is capless. The recommended fuel for this car is no less than 95. It has a 55 litre tank and does about 42 miles per gallon average. Now, let's have a look at the back of this car. Up on the very top, you have the rear jet washer. There is also a third brake light. The rear tail lights are pretty long in this car. It has one rear fog light and one rear reverse light. But I have seen mods where you can have two of each. As you can see, the rear wiper is quite small and doesn't clean that big of an area on the heated rear window. On the left, you have the Ford Focus badge. The big Ford badge is located on the centre, and usually you have the trim level and engine badge on the right hand side. Above the rear number plate, you have the colour-coded plastic trim, which holds the number plate bulbs and the rear hatch release. As you can see, the rear bumper is colour-coded with black plastic details, just like the front. Here is the rear tow and eye cover. Along the black bottom edge, we have 4 rear parking sensors, which are connected to a little device on the dashboard. Also, we have 2 rear reflectors, and this car here has a Ford tow bar with a power socket, ideal for smashing your shin in when you forget about it at night time. One thing I dislike about the rear bumper and hatch area is it collects the dirt just here, which is not good in my opinion. Here is the tiny exhaust pipe, which you will hear later. Up on the roof, we have the genuine Ford roof rack, which you will need a key to remove, which we can't find. Now, let's talk about dimensions. The length of this car is 447 centimetres, the width is 199 centimetres, the height is 150 centimetres, and it has a ground clearance of 15.5 centimetres. Now, let's have a look inside the car. But first of all, here is the key. It is the nicer switchblade type, not the horrible looking jelly mould type of key you see on older Fords. You have unlock, lock and boot release. If you hold down the unlock button, all the windows and the sunroof will open, if you have a sunroof that is, and if you hold down the lock button, all the windows will go back up. Now, let's have a look inside. When you open the door of this Ghia, you are greeted with a smart looking interior, though to be honest, it does look slightly dated compared to the facelifted version, especially when you compare it to the more modern titanium. Maybe it's the cream seats and the plastic wood trim, I have no idea, but it's still a nice place to be. The top of the dash on this car is pretty soft. Looking at the back of the dash, you get some air vents and a sensor in the middle which works with the auto air conditioning. There is also on this car a parking sensor display, which tells you the distance you are from the object. It also makes a loud beeping noise. The faster it beeps, the closer you are, and when it's continuous, you're just about to smack into something. Also up here, we have a little storage compartment. There are also little air vents that direct air at the side windows. Moving on down a level, we have oval air vents with silver around the edge and details too. The dash seems to be soft touch on the black areas, but moving down to the cream parts, it feels a little cheaper and a bit harder, especially the glove box. Moving on down a little bit more, we have the entertainment system. You will notice that the hazard switch is just at the top. It gives a nice clicking sound. This car here has the CD6000 unit fitted. Let's quickly just turn on the unit by pushing this button here. When the system is turned on, it lights up green. As you can see, there are many options on the menu display. Up on the top left, you have the CD and auxiliary buttons. To the right on the CD slot, you have the FM and AM radio, the clock buttons. Also, there is an eject button for the CD just up on top. The buttons for adjusting the sound quality are located at the bottom left. Here are the channel presets, and at the bottom right you have the travel announcement button and the mute button. I also forgot to mention that this car here has plastic wood trim made from real plastic trees. Moving on down, we have the digital dual air zone conditioning. It's a pretty simple unit to use. Let's turn it on by pushing the off button. When it is turned on, you can see that there are two individual digital displays which light up green. The red and blue circles control the temperature for each side. Red is for heat and blue is for cooling it down. The temperature is displayed on each screen for each person. AC turns the air conditioning on and off. The red windscreen button is to maximise the heating going to the windscreen. The mono button separates and links up the controls for the passenger side and the driver's side. For example, if it's turned on, the driver can control both sides as one temperature, but if he separates them, then the passenger can have their own temperature. In the centre, we have the zone controls to direct where you want the air to go. The images of the fans are in fact the fan speed buttons, which is displayed on the right hand display. To the right hand side we have the recirculating air button, which is very useful in Moscow. Moving on down another level, we have another row of buttons. At both ends we have the heated seat buttons, which have 5 levels of heat, which is, in my opinion, quite impressive. The ESP button, it stands for Electronic Stability Program, helps you keep the car under control in difficult situations. This is the Quick Clear button, which clears the front windscreen super fast. There are so many thin wires going through the windscreen, but for some reason I can't get my camera to pick them up for you. But it is a great thing to have, especially when there's ice and snow and all that kind of stuff. It just helps you big time, it saves you lots of time. You are greeted with some kind of storage, along with a 12-volt power socket. The transmission on this car is the reliable 4-speed automatic, before it got too complex. When you change gear, it displays the gear that you are in on the instrument cluster. You can also put the car into manual mode by pushing the gear selector right when you are in drive. You can push forward to change down a gear and pull backwards to change up a gear. This car has a conventional handbrake and some storage just back here. There are also cup holders here too. The centre armrest is very strange in this car due to the storage inside. If something is stored inside, for example coins, and you put the armrest up in the upright position, everything just falls out, as you can see. The one on the facelifted model is so much better and more useful. Let's head over to the instrument cluster. Compared to the facelifted version, this looks far more dated and simple, but that's not always a bad thing. The rev counter is on the left hand side, and up top we have 2 gauges. The left one is the coolant temperature and the right one is the fuel gauge. The speedo is located on the right hand side. The onboard computer and mileage readouts are located on the centre 2 screens. As this car is a Ghia, it has the 4-spoke leather wrapped wheel with cruise control. Most of the other cars have a 3-spoke wheel, which I actually prefer. The horn is located on the centre of the wheel where the airbag is located. The left stalk is for the indicators and lights, and it also controls the onboard computer in the instrument cluster. The right stalk is used for the windscreen wipers front and back. Also, before I forget, on the left hand side you have the controls for the radio and sound system. I really don't like controls like this in this location for the radio. I find it quite off-putting. I prefer them on the steering wheel, or just use my hand and go to the radio itself. To the left of the wheel, you get the car's light controls. You can also adjust the angle of the headlights and the brightness of the dashboard lights. Moving over to the door, you have the central locking switch above the door release. The plastics on this door are surprisingly hard, but look nice. Where your armrest though, there is a nice soft material finish. Anyway, moving on to the controls. Furthest away from you is the door mirror controls. All 4 windows in this car are the one-touch type. The nearest button to you cuts off the power to the rear windows to stop the kids in the back messing about with them when you're driving along. The doors also feature a speaker and a door pocket, though it's not the biggest door pocket. Also, before I forget, under the light controls you get a small storage space. Also, you may notice that this car here has footwell lighting due to it being a Ghia. Under the steering wheel you have a lever which, if you pull it out, it will allow you to adjust the steering wheel's rake and reach, which basically means the position of the wheel. The seats are finished in the colour light stone. The seat facing material is finished in cubicle and the bolsters are finished in Kent light. The seats in this car are manual, but you can adjust the height too. Not only that, since this car is a Ghia, you get an adjustable lumbar support. The tyre pressure chart is located on the B pillar. Moving up top we have the sun visors. Under the flap we have a vanity mirror, and there is also a light up in the roof lining, which has a switch, so you can turn it off and on. The passenger gets the same too. In the centre you get the interior light, including map reading lights. There are also sensors here for the alarm system. The rear view mirror tints the glass if a car comes up to you with its lights full on, which is very useful. Also, everyone gets soft closed door handles up top, apart from the driver, who gets a glasses holder for looking cool. Let's have a look in the passenger side. The window switch is located here instead, but the rest of the door is very similar to the driver's door. The passenger has less seat adjustment too than the driver. No height adjustment or lumbar support here. Below the driver's airbag, you get a cheap feeling non-lockable glove box. It has some cup holders in it though, lighting and a pen holder, and someone said that on some of them there is a kind of like cooling system to keep the stuff cool, like a fridge. Now, let's have a look in the back. The doors in the back contain the window switch and the speaker, but there is no storage. But to make up for that though, we have 2 storage pockets just next to the seat, and there are storage pockets on the rear of the front seats. Between the 2 front seats you get a small storage compartment which feels very cheap to touch, even cheaper than the glove box. Also in the rear, up on the roof, you get lighting for the rear passengers, and there is also a light for the luggage compartment. The rear seats have 3 headrests, and there is also a centre armrest. If you open up the armrest, there are 2 cup holders and a shallow storage space, which doesn't hold much at all. Now let's head to the rear hatch. As you can see, it is full. It has 4 spare tyres in the boot. I'll quickly take them out and try again. Aha. It is a nice sized boot, and with the seats up it can hold 520 litres, but with the seats down it can hold 1,580 litres. Up on the hatch you have 2 grab handles to close the hatch. To the left in the luggage compartment you have a small door with storage. It's the same with the other door on the other side, but I'm guessing there could have been a first aid kit in here. There is a useful 12 volt power socket here, ideal for pumping up the rear tyres. In each corner are metal tethering points for keeping things in place. Under the floor, you get a space saver wheel and a jack, and also there is a brace underneath. There is also a cover in the boot to hide your luggage, which is ideal for security. And I also think it kind of acts like a seatbelt kind of thing to stop everything flying towards you in a crash. Let's fold down the 40-60 ratio seats by pushing this button here. As you can see, the floor isn't the flattest in the world, but it is quite a big boot and it's very, very useful. Now, let's look underneath the bonnet, talk about the car's engine and stats, and then we will start the car up and listen to it run. To release the bonnet, you need to insert the key just under the badge and turn the key in the directions shown. This car has the 1.6 Duratec with 100 horsepower. It is not the more powerful 1.6 with the Duratec TI VCT. So this 1596cc 16-valve inline-4 is mounted transverse in the engine bay, which means this car is front-wheel drive. Whilst we know this car has a max power reading of 100 horsepower, it has a max torque reading of 143 Newton meters at 4,000 revs. 0 to 100 km per hour or 0 to 62 miles per hour is 13.6 seconds, which surprised me because it feels nippier than that. If this car was a manual though, it would do 0 to 60 in 11.9. As for the fuel consumption, it does about 42 miles per gallon average. Thank you so much for watching this video. Are there any other in-depth tours you would like to see? If so, please comment down below. Thank you so much and take care. Goodbye.